Avery Field in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and we're here looking at the middle of Avery Field. And I want to give you a history of the field. You notice that there's a playground set here. Now, that reminds you, a playground is different from a park. A park is intended for people of all ages. A playground is intended for people younger than 18 years old. So parents can bring their young children here, or children that have to get up to about 10 years old and over, they can come here on their own. And it's a very beautiful playground, but there's an amazing fact. This is quite possibly the first publicly owned, publicly financed playground in Massachusetts. And the reason why is because in 1908, there was a law passed that they had to, around Massachusetts, start to sponsor and support public playgrounds. And it turns out Holyoke was already ready, making many parks around, and they had actually started up a playground commission before 1908. And in fact, Mayor Nathan Avery was already mayor from 1906, and he had started up a playground commission when there was no playgrounds in Massachusetts yet. And he was already looking into it. And he quite possibly got the whole thing going in Massachusetts by going to the state and asking them to support it. By 1908, the law had passed. 1909, this park was ready. By late May of that year, this park, at that point called Hampton Street Field, was ready for action, and children would come here by the thousands a day. It was only officially opened during the months where school was out of session, so for about 9 weeks. And then they had so many activities around here: games, recreation, crafts, baseball, basketball, and a small swim and wading pool. And so quite possibly this is the first in Massachusetts, which is incredible. But remember that it was so crowded in downtown Holyoke that they realized that children needed a place to go and physically and spiritually get better. And that's the way they phrased it. So we're going to look around the park at some features. We're going to look first towards the east. And you notice the Maple Streets line almost the entirety of the park on purpose. They were planted in 1910, so you know exactly how old they are. They're 113 years old. There's one that just fell down this year I was thinking of. They have a lifetime of 200 years, but some are dying earlier than most. And it looks like they have 4 next off. One of the 4 is taken out already. Now, also along this eastern edge, there was a wading pool put into place in 1910, but by 1922 it was already taken out. Other wading pools went into place around other playgrounds. This was one of 3 playgrounds bought the same year and ready the same year, but this was the first of those 3. There was one at the location where the Appleton Street School is, which is moved up to Lawrence School. It was actually where the library was. There was another one on West Street, probably where Canal Park became DeWright Park. There probably was a playground in there. I have pictures of all 3 of these playgrounds. Now, along the western edge, if you look along that edge, you see, sure, a few very large maple street trees, but this was where the changing rooms were, the bathrooms, and then the softball field came in at some point. So it became a true field, lots of activities. Now, the numbers were such, and they counted them up, the numbers were such, they think 50,000 people, or children, a year would visit this park, and that goes by the day, so you can count a child twice if they come back later in the week. Okay, now one more thing to point out to you within this park. If you look behind you, there's a very old fence with a very old brickstone wall. And that is the original 1916 fence, and that's 1917 gates. And so they were built up on their side to make the park look better. And the reason why they wanted to make it as beautiful as possible, and I think they did a great job. By 1933, they had changed the name of this field to Avery Field, or Avery Playground, named after Nathan Avery, who started the idea of playgrounds in Holyoke. And he also, with his former mayor before him, Arthur Chapin, started the parks movement around Holyoke, and that's when many of the parks became greatly enhanced or became newly bought. And then we're going to walk down to a house down here for a good reason, because it's a very, very utilitarian house. All right, we're still at Avery Field. We're along the Hamden Street edge when it turns into Beach Street, and we're looking at a house that's set back from the road. If you look at every other house on this street, Beach Street, they're all very close to the road, except this one. So something very strange is happening here, and it has a very different look. It was actually made in 1870, which is unusual for this part of Holyoke up in this street, where most houses are probably from 1890s or early 1900s. Well, it's a very important house because two of them were made, and two of them were made in place on the edge of what's now called Pulaski Park. And what they are were the homes of the gatekeepers of the Holyoke Canal system. They were right by where the gatehouse is on the Holyoke Canal system, where the water came in. This house and the other house were moved during the late 1880s. The reason why they thought they didn't need them anymore, there came to be electricity, there came to be much more easy to control apparatus, and so we didn't need to have gatekeepers come out during the nighttime and change the gate settings on the canal's gates. Why would you even need them? Well, at night, most of the workers on the canal would go home, and you would need to control the water coming in, of course, because the mills would be open at night working, and they have to keep the level of the water equal to the daytime level. And so they had two of them, because if you count up all the nighttime hours, you got about 180 hours, right? And so this exists here because it was moved from approximately the edge of Pulaski Park. The other one's moved onto Maple Street and became a funeral home. This became a person's house. Now you can tell it's very far back in the street. It's also very close to the sidewalk. Very unusual. Now, one thing, we're at Avery Field, look across the street now, and you see Mitchell Field, and that's going to be one of our next stops. So this is the end of our stop here, but thank you for coming on this wonderful Avery Field stop.